When it comes to the emotional things, the piece of life that made X-Men a piece of our life is what I think Jake will do a good job at doing.
He showed his ability to do it. It's like, can he balance that enough in a 2-hour movie with the important characters? He knows how to empathize with a character who's dealing with a lot of grief or a lot of shame, and that is so important to the X-Men. Will we see an extremely bigoted Friends of Humanity session? Can Marvel go that hard? I don't know if they can.
I don't think they can. I don't think they want to.
I think they should though in this. I want to see Friends of Humanity saying really horrible stuff, and then Sunspot gets in there and just torches them. Welcome back to New Rockstars. What can we expect from Marvel Studios' X-Men now that we are revisiting director Jake Schreier's work in Thunderbolts? Is it just everyone being okay with bad things happening to kids? F them kids.
Them kids. Yeah, them kids. This week on the Sneak Peek, where we talk about the future of fandom with your hosts, Jessica Clemons and Erik Voss.
Hi, Jessica. We have a lot to talk about this episode, and if you watched last week's episode, I have an update on how I really feel about season 39 of Survivor. Whoops. Did not learn my lesson and not talk about that show until you've seen the entire season of something. Yikes. But yeah, we're in an interesting period in like looking at these big fandoms, and in the months ahead on this Sneak Peek podcast, I think we're going to have some bigger picture conversations about just like the state of fandom. But today we have Thunderbolts back on Disney Plus, and we've rebroken down the movie. We found a whole bunch of more Easter eggs in it. You can watch that video on the New Rockstars channel, but we are also just like starting to hear more about Jake Schreier's next movie, X-Men. And there was a script that we think was done, and he said he's beginning work on it. He told Empire Magazine this week that he has started work on X-Men. And we can talk about what that means at this stage, but he says, I can't say anything about it, but we've started work on X-Men, and that's obviously very, very exciting. And they say with Thunderbolts being a team-up story, there's much that the directors learned about making an ensemble Marvel movie. He said, quote, there are many things that I didn't know about before I started on Thunderbolts. He said, pointing to the MCU experience that he can now draw from, the biggest learning occurred for me was the proportion of action to the more emotional, character-driven scenes, and how even though it's more shooting days than I've ever had, they get eaten up quite quickly by the action stuff. By the time we got to the end of it, I felt like, oh, now I feel like we can get to do this little bit better. And those epic set pieces, though, according to the Empire article, sure to continue in Schreier's next outing, are a major highlight of making a Marvel movie. He said, quote, look, who gets to do that? He says, on Thunderbolts, we were in the middle of nowhere in Utah, in a gorgeous location, owning a road and filming in 100-degree heat, or finding yourself on the second tallest building in the world. These are very special experiences. And then Empire ended with, fingers crossed the director can make something excellent with those mutants. Oh, Empire, your wordplay. So we're learning a bit about like how he's transitioning from one Marvel movie to another. And I thought we could talk about, like, looking back at Thunderbolts, what worked really well about that movie that made Marvel Studios think, oh, this is the guy who should make our X-Men movie, which might be even more important to the future of Marvel than Avengers, Doomsday, or Secret Wars.
Yeah. I think a big part of that is just making a team up of people that are not necessarily supposed to be a team, like the cohesion of how it all works. Not even the balance, like, because technically, one has a superpower, and that was Ghost, and you would argue Sentry too, though Sentry didn't really help in the film. Sentry just made it worse. Yeah. but no, it's just Ghost that really had the superpowers, and a lot of people just had the super soldier serum. And then there was one that was a Black Widow. So it's like, oh, authentically, how can we make these characters that were once like not necessarily cameos, but how do we make these characters important to each other and also balance out their powers where it works effectively to make them an actual positive team? And I think they did a really good job at that. And I like that. I don't know if this is what he meant, but saying in the Empire article, like they did a bunch of action scenes, I think that really shows in the action scenes. Like even when she ties Sentry to her waist and she's fighting, I'm like, oh, you're learning how they were sloppy at first. Now they're becoming better as a team together by the end of the movie. And that just, like, even if we didn't have the dialogue of them becoming a better unit and family, through the fight scenes, we notice like, oh, they're becoming more cohesive.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the most important thing is this, the Misfit Toys team where they really complement each other in a way. But also they're able to tease each other. They're able to lift each other up. They're able to challenge each other in ways that other things in their life would never challenge them. I think that's a very difficult balance to strike. And a lot of Marvel movies don't quite get there. They have a couple interesting character dynamics, but a lot of times it's just like these characters visually look cool together, or they should be in a movie when the thread is about this. I don't want to diss other Marvel movies too much, but Captain America Brave New World, right? Like, I could see why Falcon and Sam were on a team together, but did like Ruth Bat-Saraf need to be on that team? Did the guy who was leading the SEAL team need to be part of that team? Like, it didn't necessarily gel as well as it does. And I'll even say Fantastic Four First Steps. Like, Matt Shakman did a really good job with the family dynamic. But like, if you were to remove the familial relationships, the brother, sister, the husband, wife, the college friends, did the movie really like lock into an active chemistry between the characters throughout the film? Yeah. Certain scenes, definitely. And it was all about protecting the baby in the second half of the movie. And I really felt that. But in the first half of the movie, it felt like a highlight reel where we got to know these people individually really well. But like, I don't think they ever really teased each other. You didn't really have, well, you had like Ben and Johnny teasing each other, but it really felt surface level. Yeah. It didn't really felt like getting at under the skin.
I think I could name off every moment in Fantastic Four where those kinds of scenes take place, which isn't a good thing, because in Thunderbolts it wasn't that it was like linear, it was fluid. Yeah. It was fluid the entire time throughout the movie. And I think that shows for Jake a lot in Thunderbolts, is that it's actually really hard to be given a team of people that you have to now make like each other. Yeah. I think that shows to like the Fantastic Four, but especially in Brave New World and even the Marvels, is like, oh, you already have these characters. Now here's your movie. Have fun with it. And it's like, it's kind of hard writing new story for a character that already had their new story, and like someone already built something from there, and now I have to put them together. How am I going to put them together? They're 5 random characters. How am I going to make them work? And then it worked. And I think X-Men is going to show that a lot, especially if we choose new X-Men. It's like, oh, how the hell are you going to make these two get along?
Definitely, yeah. And like, I think it's a challenge as well when it's new characters. Because, you know, Thunderbolts benefited from us knowing these people from other properties. A lot of the work to introduce them was done already. And really, the opening act of Thunderbolts just had to kind of remind us. There was a scene where they were in the incinerator room where, you know, they're kind of recapping who each other was, but it was done with one line, and it was done in a really smart, scripted form where they were like challenging each other and they were making fun of each other. And there were funny jokes like, define innocent, when he talks about killing the Flag Smasher. It was like, holy shit. So with X-Men, we will kind of know them from past iterations in other movies, but he's going to have to do more work to introduce them.
Just to add, I was like, I disagree with it only because I'm like, oh, I want you to stay as consistent as you can to what I saw from that character in the first time I saw them. Like, I want to know, when I saw Yelena being sad here, I was like, I want to know what that weight was before. And I kind of got it. I was like, I see that you're like, if I didn't have Hawkeye, I would have been like, why is she so sad? Yeah. Like, I would have been like, is she that sad because of her sister? To understand her like actual depression for her, I had to see in Hawkeye to be like, oh, she's troubled with everything. It's not just her sister dying. Same with Ghost. I'm like, if I didn't get Ghost in Ant-Man 2, I probably would have been like, I don't have this much connection with her. Like, and that's why I'm like, I had to see that consistency from their first movie.
See, I felt that I didn't need to see Ghost at all in Ant-Man the Wasp: Quantumania to like her in Thunderbolts. I think they wrote so much better for her in Thunderbolts than anything was written for in Ant-Man the Wasp. And I really feel like that might have been true for a lot of these characters. Even though we spent hours with them in some cases from these Disney Plus series, I really loved John Walker in this movie more than I liked him in The Falcon the Winter Soldier. I thought he was just like, he was funnier. Wyatt Russell felt more comfortable as the character. He got to do even more active things, despite him having a number of fight scenes. I don't know. It's hard to divorce the past from me.
I was like, but that's also a note on the character and the actor, or more on the actor than the character. Because I'm like, when I see him in Thunderbolts, I'm like, yeah, I had to see him losing his friend. I had to see him losing his friend.
Yeah.
It wasn't funny when he lost his friend. It was a little funny when he lost his friend.
It was a little. I mean, the way he reacted, I think it was really him looking around and being like, "What?
The way his
Why
body.
are you guys all freaked out that I have blood all over the shield? What?
What's going on? Why'd you guys all pull away? Why'd you guys pull away? I fought him because he was bad. They're so ridiculous. But I also agree. I'm like, Ghost is a good exception because Ant-Man 2 was not my favorite.
She was just more of a physical threat than yeah.
But I also was like, I guess it was that emotional part, and I stuck really hard with that guy that wrote the first script. That was like, yeah, let's talk about their like how they are emotionally and how that would affect their relationships really bad. And I was like, yeah, she still doesn't have like security. She doesn't feel comfortable around a lot of people. We saw her in the first movie where she was just like, I'm back for revenge. And then when she finally gets help, she's like a child that's been a bully their entire life, but just got one little bit of encouragement and then went, don't touch me. That's what we got in Thunderbolts at the beginning, was her being like, I only work solo. Don't look at me. I actually killed my person. Y'all didn't do anything.
Yeah. I think one thing that Jake Shreier, I'm really glad to see, especially after revisiting it, is well-directed action and a mixing of power sets. That's another thing that we don't always see in Marvel movies, but like, yes, a lot of them were super soldiers, but they have like a unique approach to combat, whether like the way Yelena fights people is different from the way John fights people. And just the construction of I call it like the Pokemon power matching, right? Like you have Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle that all have weakness from someone else, but a strength over someone else. And that includes all the types in the Gen 1 Pokemon, but again, gets further complicated in Gen 2 when things like Steel gets thrown into the mix or Ice and like you start to get more diverse. So like, I think, I don't know if Jake Schreier is in a Pokemon, but anytime that they do this in Marvel movies, you can tell someone who's played a lot of video games because they understand that there is interesting dynamics that you can get out of that. And I think X-Men, you really need that. Like you need someone who doesn't just look at these superheroes or the X-Men as just, oh, this guy's got lasers, this person controls the weather. Yeah. You need to think about how they're vulnerable to someone who could teleport, you know? And when X-Men has done that well, we know the difference to when it doesn't. So, and I think Thunderbolts did it well. Yeah. Yelena smartly using reflective surfaces to see when someone's rounding a corner, whereas John Walker doesn't always do that. The fact that Yelena gets particularly frustrated by someone who can phase shift, but might have the unique ability of someone who's another similarly Red Room trained assassin. Like they clearly thought about all those things, and I hope that Jake Schreier and his team think about it when like we have a new sunspot or we have someone who can run through walls like Shadowcat, you know, and I think that I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I see that.
And also there's like a difference between understanding the logic of the powers, but also how to shoot it, how to move the camera. And Jake Schreier just like smartly can move the camera in comedic ways too, to like a shot of Yelena and Ghost laughing and then pan over, right, and Bob is laughing too, even though he doesn't get the joke. Like, that is smart. There was a lot of, like, smart camera placement in this movie that I'm excited to see what it looks like when we're in the Danger Room or the X-Mansion or in Cerebro or whatever.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Yeah, I feel that. I think he also, with Thunderbolts, because it was, whether you did or didn't like it, the approach to depression, but also the approach for everybody's hurdles, seeing everyone's sickness was very vulnerable, that absolutely volatile. But I also think it was really important for X-Men when the entirety of a lot of people's fondness for X-Men is because they mirror some sort of social or economic injustice. And I think if we're going to get into that again with X-Men, this is an easier way to do it by approaching everyone's hurdles. And I think every X-Men is completely different. So if Jake showed a really good cause in this with Thunderbolts, I think he has room to do it again in X-Men. But again, agree to disagree with some people on how they feel how he approached it in Thunderbolts.
Yeah.
And if you didn't like how he approached it in Thunderbolts, more reason for him to do a better job in X-Men. I think he can do it.
I think what I wished for more from Thunderbolts is that we got to see everyone's shame rooms. You know, I guess we've seen Bucky's shame in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but we didn't get to see a flashback to Ava's past and what, like, she has killed people, you know. I guess we saw her kill Taskmaster, but I would have loved to have seen her past when she was working with S.H.I.E.L.D. Bucky makes a quick joke about it, but, like, wouldn't it have been cool to see Bucky emotionally revisit the night he killed Howard and Maria Stark? You don't even have to pay John Slattery to be dead with his head on the steering wheel. You could just get a stand-in for that. They could have recreated. That was an outdoor location just on a roadside.
I wonder if it's because to save time that they were like, oh, people already are aware of these ones, even though, are we aware of all of theirs?
I don't,
because I don't think we got
remembers.
Red Guardian. I don't think I know what Red Guardians is, but I know that we did see Ghost's dad die in that explosion, and I know we've seen every part of Bucky, but I don't know Red Guardians.
Red Guardian is farting with the Politburo of the Soviet leadership, or
he was
maybe
having a great time in the prison, so I don't think it's the prison.
He liked fighting with that with those other guys. Maybe his shame was laughing when the girl on the soccer team pooped her pants.
I think
and he feels bad.
Before.
Her dad was right next to him.
I don't think he feels bad at all. I think he thinks
look
it's funny.
at her, she's squatting, but we all know. And the guy's like, wait, why do you have a Russian accent? And he goes, I mean, how embarrassing for that young girl.
It has to be, which again, we did not really get to see him failing his relationship with Rachel Weisz's character.
Oh, something.
It has to be like, that was the only time we've seen him sad is when it comes to his family. Everything else he's had a great time doing, even running from the people shooting him to get on the plane. Like, he was having a ball of a time.
Maybe he was sent by the KGB to kill some of the scientists who were going to speak out on other Chernobyls that existed in the Soviet Union, and he felt guilty about that.
I don't think he did. I think he's still a monster guy.
He's so good. I was doing this for Soviet state.
When he was young, justified. I think that is exactly what he felt. I think that's exactly what he felt.
I think they didn't revisit him because they were acknowledging that there was something extremely illogical about Alexi's backstory in Black Widow, right? How weird is it that he was a famous Soviet propaganda figure in the 80s and then becomes Matthew Reese from The Americans in the early 90s? Someone in Ohio would have been like, wait a minute, there was like propaganda posters of your face,
and it's like, you
all over
look
Soviet
exactly
Russia.
like that guy.
Yeah, they would not have used it for that. Like, if you're gonna like be embedded as a sleeper cell in the American heartland, they would have gotten some nobody.
Yeah,
they would
100.
not have gotten a famous media figure to do it. And that's one of many issues I have with the Black Widow film. Like, I think it's two different characters that emerged into being one super soldier, but also a spy. You can't be a famous propaganda super soldier and a spy. A spy has to be someone who could be anybody.
And we'd have to see him with like a mask on to believe he was a spy. And I know you guys didn't.
And now you can say, oh, he did have his helmet that covered his face. No. If he were Captain America, but a Captain Russia, he would have been, that face would have been iconic.
We would have known it.
But I still love the character. I love the way David Harbour's played the character.
Yeah, 100. I think, but yeah, when it comes to the emotional things, the horrible things, the piece of life that made X-Men a piece of our life is what I think Jake will do a good job at doing. Agree to disagree again, if you guys disagree with it.
He showed his ability to do it. It's like, can he balance that enough in a 2-hour movie with the important characters will be the question. I'm confident that he knows how to empathize with a character who's dealing with a lot of grief or a lot of shame or whatever it is. And that is so important to the X-Men. They all have had some kind of pubescent moment where they hurt someone, and because they didn't know how to control their powers, whether it was an emotional separation from their family or someone was physically hurt in the case of people like Rogue, you know? So I'm really excited to see what he does with that. Now, the political stuff, I think the guy is actually pretty politically savvy. Just a reference to the hanging chads of the 2000 election in Thunderbolts, the impeachment hearings. Like, you need to be able to have a good, like, Senator Kelly senator debate in an X-Men movie. You know, you need to have those Capitol Hill scenes.
It just feels like a lot of maybe research he would have to do a little bit, a little bit more, just a little bit more. Because the X-Men was just so grounded. It was clearly mirroring things. It was mapping other things. So it was like, oh, this was approachable in the early 2000s. Today, how are you going to do it, Jake? Like,
I'm a little worried about that because like they're going to be trying to make a movie that's going to be coming out in 2028. And who knows what the political world's going to look like. I think we know generally what the debates will be.
We change every like 2 years.
It moves so
fast.
Yeah. But there are going to be some core issues of things like tribalism, political polarization, social media, AI. All these things are going to be pretty on the front lines. Are people going to be looking to Marvel movies for that? I want them to address it in X-Men. And I feel like Kevin Feige wants to as well.
I think he's afraid.
He should be
I think
afraid.
they're all afraid. And I think they should be 100%. I feel like it's really hard to like even it's hard. I think they genuinely, I'm excited for X-Men, but back themselves in a corner in 2028 approaching X-Men because we saw how much they did in like the Fantastic Four. And that's the amount that I assume that they would take on all their projects. It's like, we will have a UN meeting where everyone agrees with me. Like, that's for Marvel movies, that's usually how it goes. And so now I'm like, oh, but now you're talking X-Men. That's a lot different. And there's a lot of people that, again, like even bringing out Rogues specific, like every story is bad.
I mean, will we see an extremely bigoted Friends of Humanity session where they're sitting around? And by extremely bigoted, I'm referring to like when we saw HBO's Watchmen by Damon Lindelof, when we saw like the Enemies of Hooded Justice meeting, how bigoted they were. Can Marvel go that hard? I don't know if they can.
I don't think they can. I don't think they want to.
I think they should though in this. I want to see Friends of Humanity saying really horrible stuff and then Sunspot gets in there and just torches them.
The hard part about it is they have to be able to take a joke themselves. Not Marvel, but Disney. Because there will be approaches that are very linear to what are like parallel to what Disney does. And I don't think Disney wants to bring that up. They're like, hey, don't.
But like, it used to be the case where even in George Bush's America in 2003, you could have Brian Cox play Colonel Stryker and put kids in cages and say really fairly transparently coded things about what America was doing to enemy combatants of the state during the War on Terror. And it worked. It was a multi-$100 million movie. It was one of the biggest movies of the summer. So if Fox could do that in 2003. Can't Disney do it in 2028?
They won't do it. And that's the problem I have. I don't think Jake has no problem on Jake.
I dare you to do it, Feige.
I don't think Jake has a problem of doing it, and I wish he would. I wish he would Trojan horse it like they did in Atlanta. I wish they would do it like every other show. They just straight up say they're going to do one thing and then just post the other. But I just think Disney will put that hammer down. As much as like a lot of these companies have not full creative control, but they dip their big fat toes in some of the creative stuff. I just don't think, but I will be gobsmacked if they do. I will melt in my theater seat if they do. I don't even need too much. Again, going back to Rogues, because Rogues is disgusting, but like all of them, like, I mean, I don't think they're going to do what we saw with Angel and the Fox X-Men cutting his wings, but I want to see that. I want to see, just because these kids are kids when they get these powers and they accidentally kill people, and then they're sometimes subjected to be on the bad side of things, and I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, even X-Men: The Last Stand in 2006, like they tried to do the Cure storyline. They tried to do like, what if being a mutant was gay, and that is something that Bryan Singer tried to bring into the 2003 movie with all the scenes with Bobby and his family, and I think we were really impressed at the time that they did that. But then I don't know if it's just Brett Ratner lost control of the story, but it really became also a Phoenix Saga story because they wanted to have Phoenix in there. So it was two movies in one, and it didn't really work. And I don't know if Brett Ratner was the guy for that story. I think Jake Shreier, he just has enough of a sense of scale for how to balance these things. And I think he understands it on a granular human level. That's going to be really important to carry through. One thing, though, that I'm now sensing from rewatching Thunderbolts, there weren't a lot of kids in that movie.
There's one kid
who turned into a shadow. But from watching Jake Schreier's work on Beef, the kids are kind of like,
they're just there.
They're consequential and they're only important to the parents of the story, the adults of the story. Thunderbolts was about adult relationships. I had thought going into a Marvel Studios X-Men movie that it would be a kid's story, a coming of age type thing, or how kids deal with these things. But Jake Shreier has as of yet not proven to me that he is a director who works with kids. John Watts was with the 3 Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. He was able to like show he understood kids' dynamics when they're in high school. So it just leads me to believe that Jake Schreier's X-Men movie is going to be a story about the teachers at the X-Men Academy as opposed to the students. But am I jumping to conclusions there?
No, I think your nose is smelling something there. I think the hound scent is there. I think there's a trail there because I mean, if you don't show us, we don't know, and we just don't know because we haven't seen you do a lot of stuff with kids, Jake. Yeah. But I will say on a counter, which I wouldn't take this with a grain of salt. Him and Matt Shakman would not stop talking about their children when they were doing their press junkets. And I'm like, oh, if he does, he will probably write like a storyline that he thinks of his daughter about.
But how old is his daughter?
Well, no, what he wants her to see when she's older. Like, I think he's going to be writing story, but which, in my opinion, because when directors do this, when they're like, yeah, I was thinking about my child. I'm like, oh, so we're not talking about cutting off your wings. We're not talking about accidentally killing people in the middle of sleeping with them. Like, we're not talking about like the scary stuff. We're going to be talking about, I'm different. I'm just different. So that's why I was like, I think it would, and that's why I said take it with a grain of salt. He might challenge me and do completely the opposite. I think it'll be like little things. It wouldn't be too big. I think the teachers would have the biggest storylines. And also the teachers could be still like, what, the big names?
Yeah. You're going to have your Scott, your Jean.
That'd be insane if they made it Scott, Jean, and like,
Aurora.
But they made Storm for some reason a kid.
Please don't do that.
They just threw kid Storm.
That's kind of what they did in X-Men Apocalypse, right? Aurora Monroe showed up and she was part of the younger group than the teachers. But they also did a thing where they aged up like Sophie Turner and Ty Sheridan to be like slightly older teenagers. The timelines was all messed up. And I also get it confused with Dark Phoenix, which
oh goodness.
It was
Oh goodness.
So I bring it up because this is happening where a lot of millennial men or younger Gen X men are getting to direct these movies, and they have kids, but their kids are not older yet, or they're trying to write on behalf of like, I think it's really hard to write for a character who is an 18-year-old girl if you are not yourself someone who has been an 18-year-old girl. Even if you have a daughter who's 11, it's a completely different world for a woman once she reaches that age. And unless you let a woman write your script, like, it's gonna have some gaps in empathy. And it doesn't matter how good of a writer you are, it's just gonna feel a little tone deaf to women who go see this, right?
Yeah. I think it'll be better than what we saw in 2001 for sure, but
I guess I'm just saying,
not
like,
as good.
Right. And even those movies, like, the characters were like, Rogue was well written in that, and a lot of it was Anna Paquin's performance.
Yeah, I still hated Rogue.
In the first,
I can't have sex.
I guess I'm more like in the second. Yeah, the third one, it became
God.
weird how focused it was on her just losing her virginity with Bobby.
Yeah,
it was
and Bobby
just so
was
weird.
like the worst.
Weird. But I think in X2, I thought that there were some interesting dynamics there. And the first movie, her relationship with Wolverine. But even then, it was Lone Wolf and Cub. And I think any writer can write Lone Wolf and Cub, whether it's a Mandalorian or whether it's The Last of Us. But Craig Mazin is really who I'm subtweeting here, because I think Craig Mazin's one of the best writers. And I think season 1 of The Last of Us, working with Neil Druckmann, did a great job writing Ellie and Joel's relationship. But it was Lone Wolf and Cub. Season 2 of The Last of Us, there were a lot of scenes where he had to kind of write new dialogue that would be between Isabella Merced and Bella Ramsey, and the dialogue just was not there. And Craig does have a daughter who's of a certain age, but like, I think he struggled to really empathize with what 19-year-old women
also,
go
it's not
through.
like he's going to her being like, can you write this part for me?
No,
like,
you're right. He's writing it.
That'd be crazy. I mean, that's the benefit of having like a co-writer or a writer that looks at it that is a woman, right? I think they did a great job with, well, I don't know how much she added to like the female dynamic, but in Thunderbolts, after it went to that guy, I can't remember the writers' names, unfortunately.
So it was Eric Pearson who wrote the first draft of the script, who's written a lot of Marvel scripts, and then they brought in Joy Nicolo, who was a writer on Beef.
Yeah, yes, and and let me tell you, the women in Beef. But if you watch the show, you know. I think they did a really good job of capturing a mom that's been pissed off her entire life, and then finally one person set it off. But would I do that? No. But I think if he does it like that kind of with this, I don't know. But that's the thing. I don't know if Jake's really thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
I think he's like, yeah, I just need to make sure I get this story out and do it and get the deadlines and blah, 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 blah. And then I'm like, well, did you think about the girls' stories? Like, did you think about their voices? Is it heard? But I don't know how much she added to like what Ghost or what Florence Pugh's character Yelena was actually voicing. I don't know.
And it's like, it depends what the story needs. And I think you could hear what I've said over the past 8 minutes, dear viewer, listener, and think, wait, so you're saying no writer, unless they've lived that experience, can empathize? Isn't that the point of writing, is to empathize through another character? And this is a whole huge debate that we don't have time for here on the Sneak Peek, but it has happened in literary circles.
Yeah.
That I can send you some links to. That's
Literally?
really fascinating.
Oh my God.
And we don't have the right answers for it yet, of like, can you write for a character that whose experience you haven't lived through? I mean, Tolkien wrote about hobbits, but that's not what we're saying. If you have the expectations that this story will really empathize with the character's experiences and challenges on ways that past genres and stories haven't, and if you're trying to set it in the real world of today in America, the people who are consuming that story are going to have expectations that it really resonates with them. And if you want your story to resonate with them, maybe bring in a co-writer or someone in your writing staff who can help you bring that out in your script. That's all I'm saying.
I think you can have a debate about it for sure, but I do think I think if you're having that debate, you got to be aware that a lot of people have talked about this discussion, especially when it comes to books. Like, when you see a book written by a man, written by a woman, you compare them, you're like, and if the protagonist or whatever is like is female, you go, it's missing a lot here. Like, it's been always a debate, or it's been always a conversation where it's like, it's funny. I'm rewatching a lot of like Jennifer's Bodies and watching interviews with Diablo Cody, and she's like, if a man wrote Jennifer's Body, it would not have been what it was. Like, she was like, and that's because it was the entire experience of a 16-year-old girl. And she was like, but I wanted to do something like that. And I was like, yeah, this is important. Like, you notice the holes when it's just not fluid. You're like, oh, this sounds like someone that thinks they know what a girl would say.
And it depends on the story. That's what I'll say. Like, there are plenty of movies that come out where like we don't need to inhabit the inner worlds of every character in the movie. It's just more about the story. It's more about the heist or whatever it is. But like, there's also a very valid way to critique these movies. Even a movie like Oppenheimer, a movie that I adore. And I love Christopher Nolan and everything he does. Kitty Oppenheimer in that movie is written off to be an abusive alcoholic to her children. But also she's given a heroic moment later in the movie, but it's more to set up that heroic moment to say even a woman like that could still be heroic in a way. And it's kind of like, I think the picture was a bit more complex with the way that she raised her kids.
In the most respectful way, I don't think a lot of people are arguing that Christopher Nolan is great at writing the most
I think a lot, right.
My biggest beef was as soon as I saw, when I saw Anne Hathaway's Catwoman, I was like, I'm tired of this. I'm going to throw myself off a balcony. I was so mad.
And then, I don't know, there's plenty of ways to argue it. Like, did The Dark Knight Rises need Selena Kyle to be that dimensional?
No.
But there's a reason why when people talk about those movies, they don't say Selena Kyle's Catwoman as like the most timeless element of it. There's a lot of things that people goof on that movie for.
100%. And maybe I'm just also very addicted to Catwoman because I'm like, Catwoman is literally she is the, like, what do you want to call it? The embodiment of Gotham. She is Gotham. She is Gotham. She is Catwoman in a lot of ways. And she's my Gotham and she is Gotham. And I love her and she has the craziest storyline and I love a villain that's not a villain.
Who has had like, what script? Because I don't want to say every actress who's played Catwoman has done something different with it that I really love.
But which script is the best?
What script gets to the heart of her that's not from the Batman animated series? Because that's there.
I think the closest one, which is, and this is me being ignorant, I will say this. I think and it's because it's the only one that actually like talks about it, is the Batman.
Zoe Kravitz is.
It's the only one that talks about it. Because even if you go back to like Halle Berry and Michelle Pfeiffer, it's just like, ooh. we got a sexy woman here that's a Catwoman. Like, they don't really talk about who she is.
They capture the energy in an important way.
The essence and the vibe.
I mean, arguably, without Eartha Kitt, without Michelle Pfeiffer, we would not have the later ones. So you have to pay them the respect they deserve.
Oh, I give them the respect. I will say I give them respect from a woman perspective. I'm like, yeah, I love my Catwoman. I just also want her to be more than just a show.
Right.
I want her to be more. If she's going to be a show, make her a spectacle. Make her big. Don't make her fall out of a window and have a bunch of cats in her apartment.
Yeah, I don't think Christopher Nolan needed Catwoman to be that character in that movie. I think he was trying to do a kind of a Jacobian economic class warfare thing in The Dark Knight Rises and felt that Selena Kyle embodied that. But I don't think that she needed to.
No, I just don't think he did. I think he
but
just put her in there
with all of his Batman movies is he's trying to do something bigger with the Batman legend than was really there in the source material, and but he was using Batman to do it, and a lot of times it worked really well. And I just think in the case of The Dark Knight Rises, I would make that case for Bane as well. The character of Bane as Tom Hardy was just a different thing than Bane really needed to be.
And that's the thing. And I guess that's the thing. Yeah, he made those I call them Christopher Nolan's Batman or Christopher Nolan's Bane, but I don't call it Christopher Nolan's Catwoman.
It's not right. Yeah. And I would even say everything Christopher Nolan did with Batman, with all the characters, should not have been the baseline. And that's why I think a lot of people who argue Matt Reeves' The Batman was actually perhaps a better Batman movie than The Dark Knight, even though The Dark Knight as a movie is a better movie.
I think it's a show. It's a show. It was a dance. It was like, ooh, I'm eating and watching this. But the Batman was me being like, oh, I'm learning about actually what a Batman is.
Just that opening monologue, I think, taught everyone so much about the psychology of Batman.
I love it.
We veered into DC.
We went to DC.
But I think it's just we're doing this because this is if you're talking about starting over with the X-Men, you do need to look at every time a good director got a hold of this IP and how hard it is to get the tone right. And you can even be a good director and make a really good version of this that ultimately will be topped by someone else who just gets it a little bit better than you do in a way that connects with the audiences at that time.
Yeah. I mean, that's what that's what I meant when I'm you need to look back at their past stories. I'm these characters, I want to see consistency. I don't want to see consistency to a different story and a different director and a different. The X-Men in the 2000s is different than what we're going to get in X-Men today. But I'm no, I still want to see, if I see Jean Grey, I need to know, we all know the story of Jean Grey. And I know it because of the 2000s X-Men. And so I'm I kind of still want to see that turmoil still show in the Jean Grey that's today. The Phoenix is not good. The Phoenix is not it's a burden. It's a burden and no one wants it.
Yeah. I think I want this X-Men movie to take big swings. To make the MCU movies that come after it revolve around it, as opposed to something that can fit into whatever Kevin Feige's vision is, right? I want this to be so good and so high stakes with the social dynamics of the world of the MCU after Secret Wars that everything that comes after it is also colored by those events, whether it's extremely charged groups like the Friends of Humanity, whether it's just generally humanity being afraid of mutants and mutant kind and locking kids in cages. That needs to be something that is so huge that it affects everything in the world.
Oh my God.
If you're going to be in a mutant saga.
Cages.
And then I want to hear someone say, F them kids.
Man, F them kids. It's Storm for some reason, which is crazy.
Storm
of all people.
Storm.
You would assume that that's the big swings they're taking. Storm actually is the worst character. She is the worst thing. No one wants to be in the same room with her.
She needs to be a brat. We need a brat Storm. My.
Honestly, yeah, we do. That's the only change I would be very for. I've been seeing her as a pushover. I've seen her as an older lady.
As a diva.
I want to see her as just a brat. Make her petty. Make her so mad. Make her not join the team. They're Storm, we need you. And she said, well, you guys were you didn't wash the dishes earlier. So.
No, I'm making some tornadoes fight each other.
No, I'm over here. I'm busy. Doing what? I don't know. Looking at the sand.
I'm playing a version of Crossfire with hurricanes in the ocean right now.
I would love this. I would love this. The only person she talks to is Jean. She's just what? I didn't hear you. Jean has to always talk to her. She responds.
I will only respond to Jean.
I will only respond to my sister.
Professor X keeps trying to get in her head, and she's like, I know you can hear me, Jean.
He's how did you make a door? Spider-Man. Give me Mean Storm. Come on. She needs it. It's due time.
Well, let us know in the comments below what you really liked about Thunderbolts that you really want to see in a future X-Men movie, because this is a guy who's doing it along with screenwriter Michael Leslie. So we'll see what they come up with and if they need to get Eric Pearson in the mix, because I feel like they always ask
Eric Pearson.
Hey, we love you, Eric. Come on the show, Eric.
I would, yeah. Eric, I want to know how sad you are that they killed
Taskmaster. That they did that to your girl.
Did that to your girl.
Coming up this week on New Rockstars, Alien Earth episode 5 is coming out.
I love the question mark.
So I think, so we'll be breaking down that. Peacemaker, episode 3 of the new season. We also did a really fun interview with Na Lee, who plays Judo Master, that you're going to see in some of our content. And if you're watching this, if you've learned some big news coming out of the D23 Expo, we will jump on that as soon as we can. It is Labor Day weekend here, but we're going to jump on it as soon as we can. Let's end the segment with what we're watching. What have you been watching this week?
What have I been watching? I'm actually watching something that's not The Hunting Wives, and it's not Peacemaker, but I am watching Peacemaker.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, what is it? I can't remember. Maybe it's because my brain is so fried. But so I'll talk about the fact that I am watching Peacemaker. And you probably, if you're watching this, you were listening to this, you probably listened to our episode of The Break Room where we cover it on the after shows every Friday. It's such a fun, crazy episode. Like, it is. This show is ridiculous. I was nervous about it. When I first saw that first teaser or trailer, I was like, ooh, universes, different realities. I'm tired of this. Then I saw it and I went, oh, thank God. James Gunn was like, no, we are all tired of it. We're just going to make it very easy and we're going to make it very fun. And it's so great. And I love all the things that he can add to it now that it's in a universe, his universe. So great job. Very fun.
And there's consequences. Like, he has to like literally hide a giant John Cena sized body and how hard it is to do that. It's just so funny.
It's so funny. They did such a good job. I'm so proud of Peacemaker, and I should have never doubted it. I should have never been like, another universe, another reality. I don't know. I should have just gone.
It's been working out really fun. So those of you who watch these episodes of Sneak Peek for the What We're Watching segment where I specifically talk about Survivor, I owe you an apology. I pulled another Mike from Australia and said Mike should have won without knowing who he is. So I said season 39, Island of the Idols, was actually a pretty good season, thinking that there's like a gimmick that they do in season 39 that if you haven't seen that season yet, I won't spoil, but it's kind of one of these pointless producer gimmicks that you'll notice they start doing in a lot of seasons in the 30s. And I didn't mind that gimmick as much as I thought I would when I was first introduced. What I did not know is that in the merge episode of that season, something very upsetting comes to light that kind of ruins the season. And it's something that gets introduced in the first episode of the season, but they move away from it. And I didn't know that it was going to come back in such a really gross way. And basically, I won't spoil it, but there's a character who's doing something that was pretty bad. Well, no, it was really bad. It wasn't criminal, but it was just gross. And the tribe had a chance to do the right thing and vote him off, but instead voted off someone who accused him of doing it. And because they didn't believe that person, and it just gets really gross and yucky.
Bad.
And it comes up again later in the season, and then the show had to intervene, and it ruined the season. I did not know that would be coming. So, look, I'm almost done with my Survivor rewatch. I'm just gonna be very careful about assigning any quality or poor quality to a season until I've seen the whole thing.
Well, I think it's kind of it's funny, but it's also, I think it's true to just watching a show that you're like, yeah, this person's great, and then you realize, what's his name, Riley from Big Brother? You're like, wait a minute. He's forcing this person to do a lot of weird things. Like, he's being weird. Get him off.
Yeah.
And it sucks that I think this is the whole reason for Survivor, how people act on an island, right? I think it's just, even if they're all horrible and they voted off the wrong person, that's the show. Is like recognizing, oh, it's kind of Big Brother where you're like, this is how people act. This is how people are thinking. It sucks that CBS had to intervene. I understand they had to, because they're like, look, no one's going to watch a goddamn show. And also, this is bad for us. Like, we can't have this on. But I'm like, this is how you people act. Now stand with your consequences.
I think it's the way, like, I guess you can't blame people who are all playing a game for $1 million and the kind of crazy things they do to just be fully aware of how they're going to look on TV.
No, and
but
that's
I think
the consequence.
CBS and the way they're editing it and the way that they're producing it, they can see the dailies every day. They have producers looking at these dynamics and figuring out these storylines. They cast all these people. They can see when it's happening. And I think we'll see. I believe CBS moved on from this in a way that they don't let this kind of thing happen again. But like shit like that had happened on Survivor in the past. This season came out in 2019. They had a way to intervene sooner and they didn't. And they tried to make it part of the dynamic of the show in the way they edited some of those episodes in a way that I felt was pretty gross.
That's weird.
So they tried to villainize this person as if they were like a mustache twirling Survivor villain the way Russell Hantz was. And it's just like, no, you could just like not put him on screen. We don't need to see his reaction to everything. Like, I think they tried to do too much, honestly, is what they did.
And the thing is, I could be in the wrong completely, like 100%. But I'm like, no, show me. I want to see every part. Not the you guys. I hate when producers get to edit things, or like once they edit things and like trailers, or just for the episode, and they're trying to clearly make this person look like a villain. I'm like, no, I want to see everything raw. I'm like, give me that footage. I want to see how everybody's acting. And that's the consequence of your actions. You gotta, like, I'm sorry, you're on a TV show where everyone's watching. If you vote bad, if you have bad judgment and you're like, I was willing to do this for $1 million, that's the consequences. Like, I even would join this show and be like, I know everything I'm doing is under a microscope.
Yeah.
I know every move I make could be judged poorly. And if I choose to do this, I know the consequences of my actions.
Yeah. It's just getting like,
dicks.
I think that's why people like it more and more now in the modern era is like, everyone on Survivor knows that Survivor exists and has seen 30 seasons of it. And like, they're now kind of playing a type. Like it's impossible to be an ethical player and it's celebrating lying in a way that's just kind of like gross, but that's why people like it.
And I'm also like, when you join the show, this is what you're doing. I would never join. First off, I wouldn't be on Survivor because I have to eat a burger every day. But
you have to because of that curse that person put on you. That witch was like, you shall eat a burger for me.
That witch in Gypsy and I.
Or you'll die in Sunset's 3.
I'm gonna say that witch in New Jersey told me that I have to eat a burger a day, and I went, oh, okay. I said, all right.
Was that witch Dr. Oz? Who's just like, trust me.
It's actually the guy from like My 600-Pound Life. He's actually trying to get me on the show, and he's working. But. No, I literally would lose my mind if I couldn't have just normal water.
Yeah. If you had to go get
Oh my God, if I had to fight for rice, you guys would see the worst.
So much fried coconut. Like you'd have to be someone who can
see the
do
worst
that.
You would see. I am the worst human being when I don't get a little bit of sleep.
Yeah.
Imagine when I'm not sleeping at all.
Sleep deprivation is a huge
and I'm
part
just
of it.
hot and I can't swim. So,
getting eaten by bugs. I think that'd be the thing. Like if bugs were just chewing away at me for days and days and days.
I would lose it so quick. I would take myself out second person. Easy. But like it's what I'm saying is like I would go on that show knowing like you're gonna like the games you play, you're gonna do something bad. You're gonna do something wrong, you're gonna make the wrong call. But you know that going on to Survivor. There are people that only watch Survivor. There's like Reddit threads and everything for just Survivor. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're under a microscope, dude. You signed up for this. This is why you should have done Great British Baking Show. Like it's easier.
It requires more technical skill in baking.
I meant you don't look like a dickhead.
The social dynamics, it's so wholesome.
Socially wise, it's really hard to look like a fucking asshole unless you're what's his name, Money. What's his name?
Paul Hollywood?
Yeah, Paul Hollywood.
And even he is like in the world of Great British Baking Show considered the Grouch, the Simon Cowell. But if you were to put him in any other show, he would get eaten alive as a softie. Because he's generally pretty nice and he does pull his punches most of the time.
British reality shows are great. They're so nice. American ones are
British
horrible.
Traitors.
Oh God.
They're getting Americanized over on the Love Island
nice
UK.
Now. That's our
pretty,
problem. But yes, I got Paul Hollywood's name wrong. I recognize that.
Would you call him Money?
I call it Cash Money. Paul Cash or what? Like Paul? I don't know. But he is fine as hell, and I'm not gonna step away from that.
Whoa!
I think Paul Hollywood's fine as hell.
He's got those blue eyes, right?
Blue eyes, gray, just gray. And also, people have made edits of him saying like things that he didn't mean. Like he would call something like the eggplant or something. He'll say something.
He's got a dirty mind.
Yeah.
Because Prue will be like, man, it really just squirts in your mouth, doesn't it? And Paul will just look at the camera and be like, we all heard that, right?
I go, Paul, stop it. But no, go join a socially nice show, a show that's really hard to make you look like a dickhead.
But some people want that $1 million. You don't get $1 million for Great British Baking Show. You just get a trophy.
What is it? What is the one? Oh no, I would never join the one that I don't think it is on anymore. Hell's Kitchen.
Oh yeah,
is
but
Hell's
then
Kitchen
you get like
because they were all three of them were mean. Even the bigger guy.
But
that was
that's also
supposed
the
to be
culture
nice.
of Hell's Kitchen is that it kind of celebrates shouting and.
I'm like, I'm good. I could just go back home. I could just go back and live with my mom.
You know what's interesting is in the year 2000, when the first Survivor season came out, it was $1 million, and it's still $1 million despite inflation. Like, is it just like the round number of $1 million? $1 million now is not what $1 million was back then.
Yeah, and aren't they still being taxed for it?
You do. You pay like 55% of that in tax.
It has to.
If you live in, and it's California, I believe, because that's where CBS is. So you pay state tax.
I think it has to be.
Not.
Oh, if it is in California, yeah.
There's like a game show tax. If you win money through a TV show, you get a game show tax.
And they are playing. Oh yeah, and they are playing.
So it's just not like life changing the way that it used to be life changing.
I think it still is life changing because they still become famous. And I don't think the early season fans, you have to be a good, you got to be a good character to get to stay famous. I think like Sandra was a great example, and so is Boston Rob. Well, Boston Rob only because he won so many times.
He's become a media figure that when they bring him back, he gets like an appearance fee.
But if he only won that one time, I think I would have forgot about Boston Rob.
Well, and I haven't seen all the Boston Rob seasons yet. From what I know, he's won one so far. He's appeared in a lot of seasons. So if you haven't seen all Survivor, I didn't spoil anything for you.
But he also won Amazing Race, I think.
Oh, I didn't even know he was on Amazing Race.
He was on Amazing Race with the woman that he met on Amber, on Survivor.
Robin and Amber.
And I hated both of them so much that season. I despised them. I was so mad when they won.
There's plenty of people who were in early seasons of Survivor who won, and you never really hear from them again.
Yeah, exactly.
The person who won Marquesas just kind of dropped off the map, never appeared in a future season. The guy who won Thailand dropped off the map.
Also, maybe smart move, just take your money and dip. But I think today comes the social media fame.
Yeah, now it's a huge thing, and then now they bring people back all the time for reunion seasons. So yeah, they started doing that pretty quick, and then now it's like a whole culture.
Just
it's like
get your money and run, or get your money and then go on to the Amazing Race.
Or just invest it smartly in some real estate and then have a rental property and,
take it straight to Vegas. Put it all on black. Put it all on black immediately. And then when you lose, ask Jeff Probst if you can come back for the reunion.
There have been some people who are like competitive gamblers who have been on Survivor.
No,
but I don't think they're smart enough to not put $1 million.
No, you can't be a gambler on Survivor. Well, you might be good at the game.
It has helped some people in the gamesmanship, I think.
No, but if you won. Well, I'm also assuming you're Bruno Mars addicted to gambling, so I guess you probably just.
What I mean is competitive, like professional gamblers aren't gambling addicts. They know where to draw the line.
We're talking about gambling addicts for on this show. I was like, oh no, baby, that's dangerous.
Yeah,
they're doing the grains of rice. Sorry.
Well, comment down below with what you're hoping to see from an X-Men movie and how much you don't want me to talk about future seasons of Survivor or current seasons of Survivor.
I like it.
Well, if I'm just like having these hot takes before I know what's going to happen in the season.
That adds to the character of you watching the show. I think if it was the first time, which it's going to be eventually because you're going to catch up to the newer episodes, you're going to be like, we're rooting for this guy. And then you learn that he kicked a baby. And then you'll be like, wait a minute.
Oh, but what was this baby doing?
How tall was that baby?
Was that baby trying to kill someone else?
Yeah, was that baby the one that shot JFK?
Yes.
It's a baby still today.
I don't like it. I don't want to go to the moon.
I don't want to go to the moon. We're done. Cut the cameras. Dead ass. Brian, I'm serious.
Well, thanks to Brian Kim for producing and editing this episode. Big thanks to Jessica. Where can we find you, Jessica? Lulu_Clemons still?
I think so. Or Kick That Baby 420.
Whoa. But only at that time of day. You can follow me at EA Voss. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.